Don't get too close to that TV, though. Danger. Wolves on set at 11:55. A fascinating look at the film The Company of Wolves. Halloween horror on Wednesday. Last video and testament at 10:30. And Danger. Wolves on set at 11:55.
Well, I don't care for puddings over much.
Well, there are more important.
But I do like Bœuf Bourguignon.
Your hostility is perfectly understandable, sir. You have a right to be suspicious. It's difficult being a father nowadays.
Now, there. Now, you put your finger right on it.
In fact, I respect you for your watchfulness, sir.
I mean, drugs, violence, indiscipline.
And black faces everywhere?
Strikes, subversion, pornography.
The devil is walking up and down, there's no doubt about it.
If you ask me, what this country needs is a new sense of direction and a clearer sense of values.
Now, that's very well put, sir, if I may say so. And don't forget decimalisation.
Well, you can't blame me for not wanting to go out on my own.
There'll always be in England. Not with half the cities filled with coloured men, there won't.
Well, deport them, that's what I say. England for the English.
You know, it's a long time since I've had a really intelligent conversation like this. I mean, you see, most people, they try to outmaneuver one, you know. No, you do. You really make me feel very ashamed.
Oh, Tom.
No. Why don't we open a bottle or something, eh? Put the seal on it.
Lovely.
I couldn't help
Yeah, here we are. Hey, give me a hand, will you, Reggie?
Yeah.
You got it?
That's it.
Oh, sorry. That's it. Good God. You know what those are? Rifles? Who on earth are these for, Jimmy?
Army equipped to fight for Britain when the balloon goes up.
What army? What balloon? Up what? Fight against whom? Come on, Jimmy. Who are you going to fight against when this balloon of yours goes up?
Forces of anarchy, wreckers of law and order.
Ah, I see.
Communists, Maoists, Trotskyists, neo-Trotskyists, crypto-Trotskyists, union leaders, communist union leaders.
I see.
Atheists, agnostics, long-haired weirdos, short-haired weirdos, vandals, hooligans, football supporters, namby-pamby probation officers, rapists, papist rapists.
I see.
Foreign surgeons, head shrinkers who ought to be locked up, Wedgwood Ben, keg bitter, punk rock, glue sniffers, play for today, squatters, Clive Jenkins, Roy Jenkins, up everybody's, Chinese restaurants. Why do you think Windsor Castle is ringed with Chinese restaurants?
Oh, is that all?
Yes.
I see. You realise the sort of people you're going to attract, don't you, Jimmy? Thugs, bully boys, psychopaths, sack policemen, security guards, sack security guards, racialists, packy bashers, queer bashers, chink bashers, dasher bashers, anybody bashers, rear admirals, queer admirals, vice admirals, fascists, neo-fascists, crypto-fascists, loyalists, neo-loyalists, crypto-loyalists.
You really think so? I thought support might be difficult. Well, Reggie, are you with us?
I certainly am not. I've never heard such absolute... It is all rubbish. It is absolute and utter rubbish.
Simon, can I interest you in an amazing new experience?
Well, that rather depends.
It's called Whisper, and it's made entirely from milk chocolate. But it tastes very different.
Well, how odd. I thought the chocolate was just chocolate.
Oh, no. This is from Cadbury, see? It has this yielding, velvety texture to it, which can only be described as indescribable.
Absolutely extraordinary. You know, that's the most pleasurable experience I've ever had.
I can well believe that.
Cadbury's new Whisper, the ultimate chocolate experience. Bite it and
Mrs.
believe
Diana
it.
Gould in our Bristol studio. Mrs. Gould, your question, please.
Mrs. Thatcher, why, when the Belgrano, the Argentinian battleship, was outside the exclusion zone and actually sailing away from the Falklands, why did you give the orders to sink it?
But it was not sailing away from the Falklands. It was in an area which was a danger to our ships and to our people on them.
Outside the exclusion zone.
But it was in an area which we had warned. At the end of April, we had given warnings that all ships in those areas, if they represented a danger to our ships, were vulnerable. When it was sunk, that ship which we had found was a danger to our ships. My duty was to look after our troops, our ships, our navy. And my goodness me, I lived with many, many anxious days and nights.
Mrs. Thatcher, you started your answer by saying it was not sailing away from the Falklands. It was on a bearing of 280, and it was already west of the Falklands. So I'm sorry, but I cannot see how you can say it was not sailing away from the Falklands.
When it was sunk.
When it was sunk.
It was a danger to our ships.
No, but you have just said at the beginning of your answer that it was not sailing away from the Falklands, and I am asking you to correct that statement.
But it's within an area outside the exclusion zone, which I think what you are saying is sailing away.
I think we're arguing about which way it was facing at the time.
Danger to our ships.
Mrs. Thatcher, I am saying that it was on a bearing 280, which is a bearing just north of west. It was already west of the Falklands, and therefore nobody with any imagination can put it sailing other than away from the Falklands.
I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Mrs. Gould.
Mrs. Gould.
When
the orders were given to sink it, and when it was sunk, it was in an area which was a danger to our ships.
Well,
now, you accept that, do you?
No,
I
don't.
I'm sorry it was, and you must accept that
Mrs.
when we
Thatcher,
gave the order, when we changed the rules which enabled them to sink Belgrano, the change of rules had been notified at the end of April. It was all published that any ships that were a danger to ours within a certain zone wider than the Falklands were likely to be sunk. And again, I do say to you, my duty, and I'm very proud that we put it this way and adhered to it, was to protect the lives of the people in our ships and the enormous numbers of troops that we had down there waiting for landings. I put that duty first. And when the Belgrano was sunk, and I ask you to accept this, she was in a position which was a danger to our navy.
Mrs. Gould.
The Rolling Stones are back at Earl's Court, May 21st, 22nd, 23rd. The Rolling Stones at Earl's Court. Details in Tuesday's Daily Mirror and next week's Music Press.
Have a drop more.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Martin. There are far too many of them over here. Send them back, I say, and the sooner the better. Bombs and all.
Them and the blacks?
Well, especially the blacks. I mean, send them back to their own countries.
They won't want to go, of course.
Well, they have to, though, won't they?
Send them back to starve? Why not?
Well, not exactly to starve.
If they won't go, drive them out. Put them into cattle trucks and drive them out.
Well, not necessarily cattle trucks.
Well, you can be too soft-hearted, you know.
Oh, you're drunk, Amy.
No, I'm not.
Well, what else are we going to do if they won't go? And what about those hundreds of thousands born over here? They're not British, are they?
No.
So, nobody else will have them.
Well, what will happen to them then?
Oh, shut up, Amy. You don't know anything at all about it.
Thank God for the National Front.
Yes.
They won't take any namby-pamby nonsense. The blacks won't go. Nobody else will accept those born here. What to do? What can you do? Put them into camps.
Camps?
Well, for the time being, anyway. Then we can do what Hitler did. Oh, think of it. Think of it. Hundreds of people, no, thousands of people, hundreds of thousands, rounded up from their stinking slums and smelly ghettos, driven into big holding camps. Men, women, pickaninnies. Oh, you'll hear the Calypso then, all right. You'll see England as it used to be again. Red sails in the sun. They won't want to go. So we shall have to push and prod and hunt them down. They'll fight, so we'll have to shoot them and CS gas them and smash down the doors, eh? Eh? Put barbed wire around them, searchlights on the corners. Ha 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 ha! Think of all the hate they'll feel. Think of all the violence. Think of all the pain and the degradation. And in the end, the shooting and the riots.
No!
No?
No, that's going too far.
Oh, pardon me if I've... but I thought you wanted to get rid of the blacks. I mean, you seem very keen on...
Well, none of it means that.
No, suppose not, really. But you must admit it's logical, sir.
You've been wearing that haircut for a bet, have you?
Yes, no, this is the haircut of the character that I've been working with for nearly a year now, and it's a program which will be coming on television quite soon, at the end of May. It's something I don't really want to talk about a tremendous amount because I know the haircut makes it difficult not to want to know what kind of character it could possibly lead a normal life over this cut. But it's situation comedy. It's 6 half-hour programs, and it's called The Black Adder, and it'll be on towards the end of May, I believe, and we still haven't finished it. So
a touch of the medieval, I would say.
It is exactly right.
Yeah.
It's set in medieval times.
Quite. Don't want to say too much.
No, I don't.
I get a lot of people on this show, do you notice, who refuse to tell me anything about themselves or the shows that they're doing.
It's a mystery, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's best to keep people waiting.
Yes, it's that thing of not wanting to blow things up too much, so people expect everything, and then they're bound to be disappointed when they see it. I hope you won't be disappointed when you see it. But anyway, it's coming soon.
You see your face as your greatest asset, your facial dexterity. Mark, how kindly I put that.
Yes, facial dexterity. It's something that I never realised I had until I was about 21, only 7 years ago, when I realised that I did have this face that seemed to have all the permutations that could be funny. And the problem is that you don't. One doesn't like to be labelled a face puller because you feel as though if you have got a face that's malleable and can go like that, you can twist about it, that you feel that people are going to assume that you're just, that's all you can do, and if in doubt, go, and someone will laugh. But you don't want that, so I try and use it in a characterful way, so that every character has his face, and it tends to be different from some other characters. But but yes, it's funny how sometimes when you're asked a question and you can't remember what the question was half into the end.
The facial dexterity.
Yes, the facial dexterity.
Of course. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Mrs. Gould. What motive are you seeking to attach to Mrs. Thatcher and her government in this? Is it inefficiency, lack of communication, or is it a desire for action, a desire for war?
It is a desire for action and a lack of communications, because on giving those orders to sink the Belgrano, when it was actually sailing away from our fleet and away from the Falklands, was in effect sabotaging any possibility of any peace plan succeeding, and Mrs. Thatcher had 14 hours in which to consider the Peruvian peace plan that was being put forward to her, in which those 14 hours, those orders could have been rescinded.
Right, Mrs. Thatcher.
One day, all of the facts, in about 30 years' time, will be published.
That is not good enough, Mrs. Thatcher.
I am just...
Mrs. Gould,
would you
let
please
Mrs. Thatcher answer.
let me
I think
answer?
You've put a fair point.
Would you please let me answer? I lived with the responsibility for a very long time. I answered the question giving the facts, not anyone's opinions, but the facts. Those Peruvian peace proposals, which were only in outline, did not reach London until after the attack on the Belgrano. That is fact. I'm sorry, that is fact, and I am going to finish. Did not reach London.
This ship's captain could be lost without his compass. This leading businessman could be equally at sea without his calculator. In today's fast-moving business and academic worlds, there are no margins for error. That's why more than 1 million people carry Vatman pocket calculators. Use Vatman in schools, rely on Vatman at college or university. Depend on Vatman right through to the top. Vatman, Super Vatman, and Vatman Scientific from Decimo, wherever success counts.
From the same director, the second part of this afternoon's double bill is the highly acclaimed The Red Shoes, next on BBC Two.
I have champagne cocktail, please.
Yes, sir.
Champagne cocktail, please.
Yes, madam.
You know, at parties, everybody's supposed to be very happy. But perhaps you dislike them as much as I do. Still, as far as go, I think it might have been worse.
Do you?
Very nearly was a great deal worse.
Oh?
Thank you. Where it appears to be treated to a little dancing exhibition. But now I understand we're to be spared that horror.
Mr. Lermontov, I am that horror.
It's a bit late for apologies, isn't it?
Yes, a little late, I think.
All the same, I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry.
But you're not sorry I didn't dance, are you?
Oh,
May I ask why?
and because, my dear Miss
Victoria Page.
My dear Miss Page, if I accept an invitation to a party, I do not expect to find myself at an audition.
Yes, you're quite right.
Why do you want to dance?
Why do you want to live?
Well, I don't know exactly why, but I must.
That's my answer, too.
Come with me.
Where to?
We are going to have a little talk.
But I don't think I want to talk to you.
Don't you worry, I'll do the talking.